Croeso, Dinar, Folta, Salut and welcome. Grailcast number 7 is coming from the bowels of the palace kitchen, and I'll be showing you a range of gastronomic delights that can be whipped up from just a few humble ingredients. So to celebrate the end of this series of beginners Grailcasts, we're going to prepare a feast with Noob's help. We've learned how to build a house, cultivate vegetables and tame animals, and that's given us an awful lot of ingredients to play with. So we're very lucky to have permission to film in this extremely well stocked and equipped establishment. It's got a range of cooking facilities, including the 2 cauldrons you can see behind me, and the ovens in which we'll be making bread and cakes. And there's a generous pantry stocked with goodies and several barrels which we're going to look at in a moment. By now you'll be used to looking in the inventory by pressing the I key and working out how to craft things yourself. So I'm just going to show you the basics this episode, and I'm going to leave you to work out the rest. So we've got quite a lot of fruit and vegetables. If we have a look in this chest over here, we can see a range of things that are actually edible in Grailtest. We've got barley grains, we've got some acorns there, some sunflower seeds, maize grains, oat grains. We've got some spruce cones, pine cones, fir cones, which I'll show you how to cook in a moment to get some lovely roasted seeds. There's some strange vegetables like fiddleheads that you can get from certain kinds of ferns. They're very nice roasted, and also the fern tubers can be very nice. We also can eat seaweed, as well as more familiar beetroot, beet greens, fat hen greens, carrots, and I'll have to get Noob to bring us up some onions. You can eat brown mushrooms, and there's a range of fruit: blackberries, strawberries, oranges in the warmer places, and apples. And also you can brew beer from gorse flowers, and I'll show you how to do that a bit later. So that's the range of vegetables that you can get. In the other chest here we've got our animal produce, so there's fish, raw meat, raw chicken, chicken eggs, we've got honey as well, which comes from bees, and pork chops. So those can also be cooked up. There are quite a lot of fruit and vegetables and animal produce that you can eat raw, but generally the fruit and vegetables only heal about 1 heart at a time. Now we'll just sort of grab some reasonable examples of vegetables that we can muck about with. So we'll have some fruit as well, and let's have some grains, some acorns, and some sunflower seeds. That'll probably be enough ingredients to keep us going. I've got a feeling some buckets are going to be handy as well. By combining different sorts of food, we can cook a variety of healthy meals that can heal several hearts at a time. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how to make a barrel, and we can use barrels. We've got to see here when we hold the cursor over the barrel, it tells us it's a barrel of beer, and it's got 11 units of beer in there. Barrels are quite easy to make. We need some wood and 2 steel ingots like that, and that'll make us a barrel. So we can plonk our barrel down there. Now the barrels can be, let's get a bucket or 2 lined up ready. Barrels work slightly oddly. They're the reverse to what's normal in Grailtest. They work a bit like milking a cow, in that if you right click on the barrel with a bucket, you will get some of what's in it. So that's got some beer in it, so we right click with the bucket on the barrel of beer, we get a pail of beer, and there's only 10 units left in the barrel. So if we then want to transfer that beer into this empty barrel, it says barrel empty, we left click it and like that, and barrel of beer, we've got 1 unit of beer in there. So that's the joy of barrels, and if we right click it again, we can take the beer out and that becomes an empty barrel again, so we might as well keep all our beer in the same barrel. Now we can make fruit juice, we can stick milk in the barrels, that's one thing we can do. We can also make fruit juice from what we've got. Now we're going to have to go and get some water. We're going to need quite a lot of water. Now I know there's a barrel of water here, so let's right click on that with a couple of buckets, get ourselves, oh, I think we might need more pails of water than that. So in fact, if you right click on it with the stack of buckets, it will just fill up those buckets until it runs out of space in your inventory. I'm not quite sure what happens then. We put a pail of river water in there, and we get a pail of blackberry juice. What else could we make? Oh, I said we could make something interesting out of gorse, couldn't we? And we get the empty wooden bucket back, which we can stick on that stack. So let's make some gorse juice. So it doesn't sound particularly appetizing in the first instance, but we can use that to make some a form of beer with. So we've come down to the cellar now, and because they've got quite a lot of empty barrels sat there, so I'm going to store our blackberry juice in one of those by right clicking, and we've got a pail of gorse water which I'm going to store in there, and you can see it says we've got a barrel of gorse water, and I've got a couple of pails of milk here, so I'm going to store them in the last barrel. So we've got a barrel of milk, a barrel of gorse water, and a barrel of blackberry juice. Okay, so we're going to just leave them for the time being, and come back to them later and see how they're doing. Meanwhile, let's go over to Noob on the farm and see how the farm is getting along. Hello Noob! Well, your farm seems very, very successful. There's a couple of ingredients we need. Do you think you could help us with that? I think we need some onions, we need some beans, and we're probably going to need some eggs. So let's see how we're doing here. Just going to pick up these ripe carrots, and we're slowly moving the carrots over here. We've been on the farm since the last episode. Now these beans, not very many of them look very ripe. Oh dear, I don't think we got any beans. Oh, we got 4 beans off that one. Well, that's okay. If we could replant one of those, and we've got 3 beans to eat, but I think there might be some more beans indoors, so hopefully that'll be enough. And some onions. Let's have some onions. Is that? Yes. Oh, we've got a whole pile of onions there, so that's making me eat them. Don't try and dig onions while you're holding onions in your hand. Let that be a lesson. Replant the onions again. I'll stick one in there, sneakily. What else? Eggs. Let's go and see how they're... Got quite a lot of barley coming on. It's not quite ready to harvest again yet. A little bit of oats, and done quite a lot of stock proofing. So we've got the cows down here now, and we've had to kind of make the hedges quite a lot taller because these animals are quite amazing escapologists, and especially if you have, like we do here, far too many sheep in one field. They're really good at just climbing on each other's backs and jumping up, so we may actually, you can see they can jump quite high, so we've kind of made a bit of a bigger wall around the mine here, and we may actually have to extend this hedge a little higher, or possibly move some of the sheep. That's the other thing. Now, eggs. We've moved the chickens into the orchard because chickens like orchards. The only problem is, of course, they're very good. They're not really flightless birds. They just can't fly very high. Oh, there's an egg, so that's good. But it looks like we've still got some chickens in here. Finding the eggs in the orchard is actually quite hard work. We'll take them over to Afflatus at the palace kitchen. There are lots of ways of combining food in order to make interesting and healthy meals. To start with, you can combine any three fruit. We've got another fruit, let's just put another blackberry, and you can make a rather nice fruit salad there. We have actually run out of space in this inventory. You can also combine any three vegetables in a similar way, bit of beetroot, some fat hen, and you can make a nice salad there. I'm going to have to put these down. So there's our salad and fruit salad. I'm sorry, that's the normal salad, that's the fruit salad. Okay. In order to make cooked food, you quite often have to go through a preparatory stage first. Let's make some porridge. So if we go into the crafting grid, you can make porridge with oat grains, and I've stymied myself because we need some water. Let's get some water back. Oat grains and water. There we go. So 2 loads of oat grains and 1 bucket of water will give us some cold porridge. Well, that doesn't sound terribly appetizing. Most of these cooking recipes do require cooking, obviously, so they're 2-stage recipes. What else could we make? Let's make some vegetable stew. So vegetable stew we can do by combining one of these vegetables with some grains. Let's put some barley grains in there, and something like some beans or some seeds. Let's try some beans. There we go. And we've got some prepped vegetables. They're also going to need cooking. And let's get some raw chicken. So back at the preparation table, in the crafting guide, we want to get a last bucket of water, and we probably need some sort of vegetable to go with it, so we'll stick some chicken, bucket of water, and I think we need to put some sort of vegetable in there. There we go. And we've got some cold chicken soup. So the usual way of going about cooking them is to take them over to the oven, and we right click on the oven and stick them in the oven. Now normally you can use coal to fire the oven, but you can also run it on wood if you prefer. Sometimes it doesn't really make much difference. You don't get quite so much flame out of wood. but you can put almost anything that is actually burnable. I might as well stick the whole stack in there because that's going to go really fast. You can put anything burnable in there and you will eventually get something out of it. Obviously coal is much more efficient because we're getting through huge amounts of wood this way. There we go, and the last one, let's put the porridge in. I also want to show you a couple of other things we can cook. If you cook the pine cones, let's take those out because they're now done. You can get roasted pine nuts. You can also get roasted spruce nuts, I think. There's anything else? I haven't got anything else there. And of course, you can cook. You can just cook meat directly by putting that in the oven. So I think that's probably our first round of baking. So while we can cook food in that two-stage process, we can speed things up a bit by using a cauldron. Now you can see here, if we look at the top of the cauldron, that's bubbling away. You have to put a cauldron on top of a fire or something hot in order for it to work. If we take that off the heat, it won't work. If we hover over it, you can see cauldron active. It's actually not got anything in it, but it is hot, which means we can now use it to cook some food in. I'll just quickly show you the crafting recipe for making a cauldron. Is you can use any metal for this. I just got quite a bit of bronze. Seven pieces of metal in a kind of U shape. But anyway, we've got a cauldron there ready to use, so we don't need to make another one. And again, if you right click on the cauldron, you get something similar to the furnace coming up. You've got this, but you've got a craft grid this time with the final output, and this means we can put the basic ingredients for the two-stage recipes into here, and we can get hopefully the same thing out of the crafting grid. So if we vegetable stew, if we put a vegetable, a grain, and let's try a seed. Yes, there's something happening, and we get another bowl of hot vegetable stew out of that. What else could we make? We could make some soup, couldn't we? We could make more chicken soup. So there, and vegetable, and there we go. And anything you can make really with a two-stage process in the oven, you can actually probably make in a cauldron. And you know, also cauldrons are useful for making magic potions, of course, and things like that. You can also bake bread in them, oddly enough. But it does work. I'm going to show you that in a minute. I'll probably use the furnaces for that process. That's covered most of the exciting things you can do with vegetables, fruit and meat. I'll just add that they have different healing values, so if you combine foods, a whole meal will heal several hearts rather than just one at a time. Probably the best for that is the chicken soup, if it's really an emergency. Next I'm going to show you the bit that I'm sure you've all been waiting for, is how to make bread and, more importantly, cake. So to make cake we're going to need some flour, egg and water. I can see the egg and water. We make flour by crafting grains. So if we put, let's say we put 10 grains in there, perhaps we need to put them in a row like that. That's the way we do it. And then we get 10 piles of flour there, which we can then use to make our cake recipe. So if we put 1 lump of flour, we put an egg, and we put a bucket of water, we get some cake mix out of that again. It's a 2-part recipe, so we're going to have to bake this. And I think we're also going to put a bit of fruit in there as well, except that it doesn't seem to like that quite so much. Oh, how about that? Yeah, it doesn't like apples, but it likes blackcurrants. So blackberries, sorry. So we've got ourselves a bit of fruit cake mix there, which we can bake in the oven. And let's also, so if we click on bread in the crafting guide, we see that actually the way to make bread is to simply bake this pile of flour. So let's go over to the furnaces. I think I'm going to use a bit of coal this time, and let's bake a cake. That seems to take quite a bit of baking. And there we go, there's a loaf of bread. We've got a fruit cake and a plain cake and 8 loaves of bread, and I also roasted some fiddleheads while we were at it. So I'll take those over to the store, and after that let's have a look at how our barrels are doing. So we've got quite a lot of different things in there. Some cooked chicken, some roasted nuts, we've got hot chicken soup, porridge, hot vegetable stew, bread and cake. We're going to have to cook a few more things, I think, ready for the banquet tonight, but we're getting well on our way. And let's see how the beverages are getting on. So it looks like our fruit in the barrels hasn't kept terribly well, and we've now got a barrel of blackberry wine, and that's still got gorse water in it, and that's alright. And oh dear, the milk has actually turned into cheese in the barrel, so I might have to use an empty bucket for some reason. Yes, there we go. And we've got 2 lumps of cheese out of the barrel by right clicking on it with a bucket. And we could also get the bucket of blackberry wine by right clicking on there. That barrel's now empty. The gorse water's still sitting there being gorse water. That's okay, we'll leave that. If we want to drink our blackberry wine that we've just made, we're going to need to make some bottles to decant it into. So the recipe for bottles is 5 blocks of glass, 5 blocks of glass like that. So let's just make, and I think we get 10 bottles out of that, which should be enough. And then if we place them in the crafting grid in a circle like that, and put the bucket in the middle, the bucket of blackberry wine in the middle, we get 8 bottles of blackberry juice out of that, blackberry wine out of that, sorry. And if we then want to, we can then create some glasses with 7 lumps of glass, 7 blocks of glass in a similar pattern. That will get us 14 empty drinking glasses, and we can then charge up those glasses with the bottle when we're ready to have a drink, which I think once all the cooking's done we'll be ready to lay out the table. The table is laid and our banquet is ready to eat. Here we are upstairs in the palace, in the main room of the keep, and I think it's time to pour the wine and light some candles. Noob, dinner's ready. I'm just about to pour the wine, so you better get up here while it's still hot. So, we've got a lovely spread here. We've got a loaf of bread there. We've got some salad, vegetable stew, got a cake for later, and some lovely wine. So, if I pick that up, that was a bit shocking, but it does a bit of a shocking noise. But it does actually pick the bottle up. We can then wield the bottle and point it at the glass, and if we left click on the glass with the bottle, it will fill it up with wine. And you can see that's now got 6 bottles of wine left, so it's like 1 glass per bottle. And I think we could do with some mood lighting, so I'm going to craft a torch, like so briefly, I think just 1 torch, and we'll make ourselves a candle for the centerpiece. There we go. That's very, very nice. Cheers. And that left click, it empties the glass, just like all the other food you eat by picking up and left clicking. Put the glass back down. We can pick the vegetable stew up. If we left click on that, that gets rid of the vegetable stew. Eat our salad in the same way, and we can even eat the cake. So that's the end of this first series of beginners tutorials, but that's by no means the end of Grailcast. Almost certainly going to be making another series in which we'll cover some of the more advanced tips and tricks, things like chat commands and the magic system. Let us know if there's anything else you want to see covered, and we'll also keep you updated on any exciting changes in the game. And I'm going to do a couple of special episodes as well, one of which will cover the legend of Bramblehaven, which is the story of how we all got here and why we're now trying to rebuild new Bramblehaven in this strange and slightly scary land. We do have a website on it with information about how to download and install Grailtest, along with information and a map of the server. The server itself does have a forum page, and the code is also hosted on GitHub, so you can send any bug reports or feature requests to the GitHub site, and all that information's on grailtest.pathalora.co.uk. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed watching this mini-series and found it useful and informative. I hope you go and build something incredible, build something fantastic, or build something ordinary. Do exactly what you like.